Imagine you are Eric Richins. You have a stonemasonry business you built from scratch. 3 young sons you adore. A home in the mountains outside Park City, Utah. A life that, on the outside, looks exactly like the kind of life people dream about. On the evening of March 3, 2022, your wife makes you a Moscow Mule cocktail to celebrate a business deal closing. You go to bed. You never wake up. At 3 a.m., your wife calls 911 to say she found you unresponsive in bed. You are pronounced dead at the scene. An autopsy later reveals you died from an oral overdose of illicitly sourced fentanyl, with 5 times the lethal dose in your bloodstream. The only people home that night were you, your wife, and your 3 young boys, who were ages 5, 7, and 9. Over the next year, as investigators quietly examined the evidence, your wife self-published a children's book about coping with the death of a parent. She went on local television. She cried. She talked about helping your sons heal. The book was called Are You With Me? Her name is Kouri Richins. And in March 2026, a jury convicted her of murdering you. This is the full story. Eric Eugene Richins was born on May 13, 1982. He built his life with his hands, literally. His stonemasonry business served clients across the Park City area, and those who knew him described him as generous, hard-working, and deeply devoted to his 3 boys. He had been married once before. In 2013, he married Kouri Darden, who went by Kouri Richins. They signed a prenuptial agreement, one that specified very clearly that if the marriage ended, neither party would inherit the other's assets. There was one exception. If Eric died while the 2 were still legally married, Kouri would be entitled to his estate. What Kouri did not know, and would not discover until after her arrest, was that Eric had quietly rewritten his will years into the marriage. He had cut her out entirely. He had told family members and close friends that he was afraid, that he had felt sick after meals his wife prepared, that he believed Kouri was trying to poison him. His family listened. They worried. But nothing had happened yet. Then, on Valentine's Day 2022, something did. February 14, 2022. Valentine's Day. Eric Richins called 2 separate friends that afternoon, both shaken. He told them he felt like he was going to die. That something was deeply wrong. That after eating a sandwich his wife had given him, his body felt catastrophically off. He recovered. He did not know, and prosecutors would later prove, that the sandwich had been laced with fentanyl. According to testimony from Carmen Lauber, a housekeeper who sold drugs to Kouri on multiple occasions, Kouri had first approached her for fentanyl pills in early 2022. Lauber testified that Kouri specifically requested stronger substances, calling them the Michael Jackson stuff, a crude reference to the powerful anesthetics associated with the singer's death. Lauber confirmed making at least 4 separate drug transactions with Kouri. Cell phone data placed Kouri's phone near the drug pickup locations on the relevant dates. 17 days after the Valentine's Day poisoning, Eric Richins was dead. By the evening of March 3, 2022, Kouri Richins had purchased more fentanyl pills from Lauber. Phone records confirmed her device was near the pickup location just days before Eric's death. That night, she later told investigators, she made her husband a Moscow Mule, a vodka and ginger beer cocktail, to celebrate a property deal her real estate business had closed. Eric drank it in bed. Kouri told investigators she then went to sleep in one of their son's rooms because the child was having a nightmare. She returned to the bedroom hours later and found Eric cold and unresponsive. She called 911 just after 3 a.m. The emergency call, played in court during closing arguments, struck prosecutors as significant. Lead prosecutor Brad Bloodworth told the jury it was not the sound of a wife becoming a widow. It was, he said, the sound of a wife becoming a black widow. The medical examiner's findings were unambiguous. Eric Richins had no prior history of prescription drug use or illicit drug abuse. There was no evidence of heart disease, stroke, or any natural cause of death. What there was, in his bloodstream, was illicitly sourced fentanyl, orally ingested, in a quantity approximately 5 times the lethal dose. Someone had put it there. In the months following Eric's death, Kouri Richins did not fade quietly into grief. She hired a ghostwriting company to produce a children's picture book, a story about a child wondering whether their deceased parent was present during life's special moments. Birthdays, Christmas mornings, First Days of School. She titled it Are You With Me? She self-published it in March 2023, exactly 1 year after Eric's death. In promotional interviews with local radio and television stations, she presented herself as a devoted mother who had written the book alongside her sons to help them process the loss of their father. She appeared on television looking composed. Maternal. Healing. What she did not mention in any interview was that investigators had, by this point, already begun quietly building a case against her. Prosecutors later revealed that a forensic accountant hired by the Summit County Sheriff's Office had found evidence that Kouri's real estate business was imploding under more than $2 million of accumulated debt, much of it run up in Eric's name without his knowledge. She had also secretly taken out multiple life insurance policies on her husband, collectively valued at approximately $2.2 million. And in the weeks before and after Eric's death, Kouri had been sending affectionate text messages to a man named Josh Grossman, a boyfriend she had been having an affair with for years. In one text sent just 2 weeks before Eric died, she wrote to Grossman, "If he could just go away and you could just be here, life would be so perfect. I love you." Digital forensics played a central role in the prosecution's case. Investigators recovered Kouri's phone search history, and what they found was devastating. In the period surrounding Eric's death, her phone had been used to search for the following. What is a lethal dose of fentanyl? If someone is poisoned, what does it go down on the death certificate as? Luxury prisons for the wealthy in the United States. Kouri Richins, net worth. These were not the searches of a grieving widow. They were, prosecutors argued, the searches of someone who had been planning, had executed the plan, and was now trying to understand the consequences. Combined with the testimony from Lauber, the cell phone location data placing Kouri near drug pickup sites, the life insurance policies, the affair, the mounting debt, and Eric's own prior statements to family that he feared she was trying to poison him, prosecutors built what they described as an airtight case. The defense tried to counter. They argued Eric had a hidden addiction to painkillers, that it was possible he had sourced the drugs himself, that the prosecution was seeing a witch where there was only a widow. The defense called 0 witnesses. The trial of Kouri Richins began in early March 2026. It lasted 3 weeks. The prosecution called more than 40 witnesses, among them forensic experts, drug suppliers, financial analysts, law enforcement investigators, Eric's friends and family, and Kouri's own lover, Josh Grossman, who testified while visibly emotional as dozens of their intimate text messages were displayed in court for the jury. Among the most powerful moments, audio of Eric's family members describing how he had told them he feared his wife was poisoning him. Their accounts of a man who sensed the danger around him and tried to warn the people he trusted, but did not know how to leave, or did not believe it would come to this. The prosecution's star moment came in closing arguments, when Bloodworth played the 911 call and reminded the jury. This woman, just weeks before calling that number, had texted her lover wishing her husband would just go away. On March 16, 2026, after just 3 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. Guilty. On all counts. Aggravated murder. Attempted aggravated murder for the Valentine's Day poisoning. Insurance fraud. Forgery. Kouri Richins looked at her attorney and raised her eyebrows as the verdict was read. Eric's family, seated across the courtroom, collapsed into each other's arms in tears. The sentencing hearing was held on May 13, 2026. It was Eric Richins's 44th birthday. His sister, Katie Richins Benson, stood before the judge and spoke directly to him, the brother who was not there to hear it. "Today is Eric's birthday," she said. "I stand before you because he can't. He was taken from my dad, my sister, his nieces, his friends, our community, and worst of all, from his 3 amazing sons." Then came the sons' statements, submitted in writing by their legal representatives. Their words were among the most devastating moments of the entire proceeding. The eldest, now 13, wrote that he remembered the night of the murder, being put to bed early without his bath, an unusual departure from routine. He wrote that he tried to enter his parents' bedroom that night and his mother yelled at him to go away. He wrote that she did not come to sleep in his room as she had told investigators. "I'm afraid if she gets out, she will come after me and my brothers, my whole family," he wrote. "I think she would come and take us and hurt us." Another son wrote simply, "I miss my dad. But I do not miss how my life used to be. I don't miss Kouri. I will tell you that." Kouri Richins addressed her sons from the defendant's table. She told them to be like their father, to serve their community, to be generous. She called the verdict an absolute lie, and said she would never stop fighting to come home to them. "The thought that I murdered their dad," she said, "is still as absurd to me today as it was 4 years ago." Judge Richard Mrazek was unmoved. He noted that Kouri had tried to kill Eric on Valentine's Day, and then, rather than stopping, had spent the next 17 days preparing to try again. She had doubled down, the judge said. On what would have been Eric's 44th birthday, Judge Mrazek sentenced Kouri Richins to life in prison without the possibility of parole. "She will die there." After sentencing, one detail kept returning to the people who followed this case. Shortly after Kouri's arrest in May 2023, her mother had mailed a copy of Are You With Me? To the Summit County Sheriff's Office, anonymously, with a handwritten note saying the book exemplified the true Kouri, a devoted wife and adoring mother. Investigators had already found records showing Kouri had paid a ghostwriting company to produce the book. She had not written it with her sons. It had been written for her. The book she had held up on television as evidence of her love and her grief, the book she had promoted as a healing tool for children, was, prosecutors argued, part of an elaborate performance designed to make her look like something she was not. A grieving widow, not a calculated killer. The title Are You With Me? Takes on a different weight now. Those 3 words, supposedly addressed to a lost father from his children, may always carry the echo of what the jury decided actually happened in that bedroom in Commas, Utah, on the night of March 3, 2022. Eric Richins was 39 years old. He had built a business, raised 3 sons, and tried to warn the people around him that something was very wrong. Nobody could stop what happened to him. His 3 boys, who were 5, 7, and 9 when their father was killed, are growing up now without him. Their mother is in prison. Their childhood has been shaped by a crime that courts have now confirmed was calculated, deliberate, and driven by greed. The children's book their mother published about grief will follow this story forever. A reminder that the most dangerous lies are the ones dressed in something that looks like love. Kouri Richins plans to appeal. The legal process continues. But as of May 2026, on what would have been Eric's birthday, justice in the form of a life sentence has been delivered. Subscribe to Quick Crime Vault. Every name in this vault deserves to be remembered. We'll see you in the next vault.